everybody, and welcome to Brain Balance Live with Heather Wells. That opener makes me so happy. Doesn't it make you happy, Heather? Just
It
the
does me
music
too.
and all the positivity.
They surprised me with that last week, and we went to camera. I was just sitting there going, because it's so cool.
I know.
It was such
It's
a great
so
surprise.
happy. It makes me so excited to get to talk to you. I've stolen the show from Corey, my husband, who was doing the lives for a while. I'm taking a turn because he was getting all the good information from Heather. And I said, I really need to be hearing some of this information too. So my name's Jen. I'm here to talk with Heather and find out tricks and tips. There it is. Tricks and tips that we can use to try to make our family life just a little more smooth because it can get so chaotic. And just to let everybody know, Heather is a therapist. She is a board certified cognitive specialist, and she's also the National Autism Summit speaker. And so we are just so grateful to pick your brain of all the knowledge that you have stored up there. So thank you so much for being here and chatting with me.
Thank you. I love being able to talk mom to mom. It's really fun that you're tag teaming with Corey on this.
Yes, I agree. Yes. And what are we going to be chatting about today? What's the topic that you think we need to learn about today?
Today, we're going to talk about how to discuss academic challenges with your kids. And anybody who has questions, let me know. Have you ever had those conversations with Roger or your kids?
About discussions with struggles with learning. Yes. In fact, I was excited to learn what this topic was for today because we had our own struggles this morning. So I'm going to share some of those with you and maybe pick your brain about those specific differences.
Yeah, definitely. To start with, we want to make sure that our kids understand what their struggles are. If they have a label, what it means. I get a lot of questions about to label or not to label. And I think as long as we do not define our kids are not ADHD. ADHD is not a learning disability. I'm just saying our kids are not anxiety. Our kids are not dyslexia, dysgraphia. It is one element of the many beautiful layers that make us human beings. But a lot of research says to start talking about the challenge around a second grade, but then to be very specific with if they do have a label, make sure it's the right label. I can't tell you how many times over the past 30 years, families come in and say, we've been in the dyslexia program for 3 years and the progress is minimal at best. And that's more just because they're the pacing and one-on-one instruction, it doesn't really seem to be getting it. And then come to find out, well, it's a visual perception issue or whatever the deal is. So there are so many myths. And so as parents and adults, we have to make sure we know what those myths are so that we can properly inform our kids.
Yes. Okay. I love that. Yeah. And how would you go about I know we're going to dive into the topic, so I don't want to steal too much time, but how would you go about knowing if you have the right diagnosis or that you're dealing with the right issues?
Well, make sure that you've had one thing to be aware of is that in a lot of schools, understand that to have individualized instruction and have everything set up exactly right for every single child is very difficult. So some schools trying to do the right thing, you have a reading challenge, they put you in the dyslexia program. Why does that matter when it's not dyslexia? Dyslexia is an auditory processing and a language-based disorder. And so if it's visual perception, we're not taking care. Accommodations don't fix anything anyway, but make sure it's just very thorough testing. And just because there is a diagnosis that's right, is it the only one? That's another thing. You can have dyslexia and visual perception issues. I'm only using this as an example, but it applies across the board. But know that there are a lot of myths out there, and misconceptions. Your child may think I'm stupid. The exact opposite is true. To be diagnosed with a learning disorder, you must have average to above average intelligence, because a learning disability, quote unquote, is, and I like to call them learning differences, but a learning disability means that there is a gap between what we would think you would be capable of based upon your intelligence and where you're actually performing.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, so that is different than what you think of when you hear that word disability.
Yes. And so kids may think, I'm just not a reader. That's a very fixed mindset. I'm just not going to be able to.
Yeah,
So it's a lot of people think that, oh, accommodations are giving someone else a leg up, when in fact accommodations are trying to level the playing field.
right.
Learning disabilities are not helped with medication, and some people are hoping there's something that they can give to help with that, or
Yeah.
it only impacts them in school. We looked last week at disorganization and how that impacts schoolwork as well as chores, following directions at home, etc. And it also will impact even in the workforce, of course. But if they're old enough, I prefer to really use metacognitive questioning, open-ended questioning, to get them to think about what their struggles are if they are developmentally able to do so. And so, and I think we can take these away right now, and just cue them up as we move to the next one. And thank you, Bess. I totally, but what do you what do you think about the fact that you were, what are your perceptions about having a math disorder, or, being diagnosed with dyslexia? Let them tell you, and then you know specifically what to address, but make sure you know what the myths are so that you
Yeah.
can give them the proper information.
That's
So I
why
think
I'm so excited to talk about this today, because I do think that sometimes it's easy as a parent who didn't have those struggles in school. It's almost hard to wrap your brain around it.
it is. And as I said last week, and I probably say this on a lot of shows in different contexts, kids with learning disabilities are rarely lazy, apathetic. If only you would apply yourself. It can look like they're not applying themselves because they are indeed smart and they just like math, so they do better in it. No, maybe they might even be gifted in that or average, and it masks the real struggle. Sometimes kids become apathetic because, as Lady Bird Johnson said, we had a quote up yesterday, and we all know this: kids will live up to the reputation we give them. And if I feel that something is just inherently wrong with me, then and I try and try and try, and I'm just getting further and further behind, might you give up too? It might change your attitude. What's the point in trying because it's not working? So we never want to give character labels, and help them understand. Sometimes kids are so relieved to know there is this identifiable thing separate and apart from who I am in my heart and soul and in my character that is causing these challenges. What a relief. It's not me, it's this thing. And that makes it more tangible and really motivates them to keep going.
My goodness, I feel like we could do a whole episode on the frustrations that we put on our kids that end up giving them that negative self-talk, because we're
Definitely.
trying so hard, and so we're frustrated. So we say things that lead them to believe that they're not successful or they're not doing these things. It's not even intentional sometimes. It's so good that you're drawing attention to that. So thank you.
Yeah,
I feel like I could talk for hours.
it is not intentional. It's about really educating ourselves, which is why we're doing this. I mean, because it totally looks like they're just choosing not to do it sometimes because they're smart.
Yeah.
So it's really important to emphasize their strengths also when you're talking about this. Yeah, they need to understand that they are not the equivalent of their label. And we all give examples of things that you struggle with, even if it wasn't a struggle in school or the way you learn differently. You can learn. You're just going to have to work a little harder, and you're going to take a different route. You're going to finish the course. It's just via a different route. And you can even give examples. You know how Daddy is very visual and he likes drawing on his whiteboard. True story in your house.
True story. Post-it notes everywhere.
And whereas when I rehearse my lines, I say them out loud or I read them over and over. I like to hear myself saying them. And it's just like we have different ways that we learn and process information, so do you. And that makes it make sense. You can learn. You have to be very hopeful and optimistic about the fact that they can do it so that they don't give up.
I love it. I love that.
All
right.
As we're emphasizing their strengths, I mean, they're not the equivalent of their strengths. They're not the equivalent of their struggles. They are human beings with dreams, thoughts, hearts, souls. Give them opportunities to explore their interests and their passions. because that can really alleviate a lot of the frustration on the hard stuff and give them the mojo, as I used last week, to keep going on the things that are hard. They need to know that we all have things we're naturally good at that we can cultivate, as well as things we have to work a little harder at.
Do you know how to, one of the struggles we had this morning and that we have sometimes is that Roger's diagnosed ADHD. He's definitely got some other behavioral struggles there. I think he would probably, if someone wanted to diagnose him with ODD, he would probably be diagnosed ODD. He's very defiant, which you've learned from Corey. And it's hard for us to tell sometimes if something is an excuse for trying to get out of doing something the way we want him to do it, or if it really is something he can do that way. So like that he wants to listen to music at the same time as doing the thing. Whereas I might think like he needs to focus and it's harder for him to focus while he's listening to music. But for him, his brain works differently than mine. Like, how do you know the difference between something they really need and is a strength and how much is something that they really don't and they're trying to get away with something?
Yeah, I think we have to do an entire show on that because that is such an excellent question. But we do need to our kids need to have a voice, even though they may not be prepared to be able to just lay out this path and know independently what's up. We want to always be cultivating their independence and autonomy. The more we give kids a voice with family meetings, one-on-one quality time, empathizing with a struggle while enforcing the house rule, the less they have to seek it in inappropriate ways. It is very true that a lot of students do learn better and do focus better when there is auditory stimulation. For others, it would be a complete distraction.
Yeah.
So listen to them, give it a try, and look at how they're progressing. And also just pick your battles sometimes. When kids are seeming defiant, they are not trying to take away a parent's control or a teacher's control, even though it completely feels like that. I know whereof I speak, not just as a professional, but as a mother.
Yeah.
They are just seeking some of their own. These kids are so out of control sometimes of their sensory experience, motor development, struggling in school, being told where to be, when to be. Being a kid, you just don't have a lot of control. So we want to give them some independence and a voice. That's how they develop their sense of self. That's how they do grow in that and can start taking charge and self-advocate. If kids are trying to advocate for themselves and we don't listen, they might just decide to tune out and I don't care anymore. Or saying that they don't care. We can do a whole show on that one.
We're writing it down. We're taking notes. We're doing it. Well, how are we going to dive into this topic that is today?
Well, we've done the first.
I thought we hit a point.
On number 2, where we want to emphasize, and I may not be doing them. We've already done number 2. Number 3, emphasize that their struggles are not their fault. So, buddy, I know this is hard for you. You are validating it. This thing that's giving you a hard time is called dyslexia. It is called dysgraphia. Whatever the thing is, make sure you're right on that. Make sure you know what the root causes of the struggles are. And like I said, that separates it, and it's not me. It is not something inherently wrong with who I am as a human being. That is, and we are here for you every step of the way. We are going to get to the bottom of this. And then follow through on what you say. These, I think it's important for parents to hear. It is also not your fault. Learning disabilities, we do want to limit screen time, but learning disabilities are not caused by TV. They are not caused by a 2-income household. It is not your fault either. I want y'all to know that.
Say that again. It is not your fault.
No, these academic challenges kids have are not your fault, moms and dads, just like they are not the children's fault. It is not your fault if you've called your child lazy or task avoidant, or if only you would apply yourself because you didn't know. But strengths mask struggles mask strengths many times. So that's why if you're tuning in today, you are the parents who are being proactive. You didn't do anything wrong, but now we can chart a new course. Let them know we're starting with a clean slate. You know what? Mommy learned some stuff today and I kind of messed up. Kids don't respond to perfection. They respond to real and authentic. Guess what? Now I can be real. I don't have to be perfect with you. I don't have to deceive you about something I did because mom admits that she messed up too. I still love her. She still loves me, even though I'm not perfect.
Yep. I feel like we did that. We had that real struggle this morning. And I said to him, I didn't do anything right, I'm sure, during the struggle. But afterwards, I can give myself props because I said, I love you unconditionally, right? Like, I just kind of reiterated, like, how much I love you. I hope that that every struggle that we have is because I'm trying my best to help you. And so
Yes.
he was like, I know, Mom, I know.
I know. But they know, but that doesn't mean it doesn't feel good to hear it,
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do we have next on there on the fourth tip? Yes, if you have faced learning challenges or someone that they have a connection with, it could be a neighbor, aunt, uncle, cousin, anybody. Share helpful information about your journey. You can not only about the types of this, it's so individualized what helps kids with the way they learn and the way they study and what accommodations they need, what kinds of supports they need, but also if you were bullied, share that. If that's the case, here's another thing. Research shows that when someone is picking on your child, you do not ever want to call them a bully. It is the person doing the bullying. Why? Because if we call that, even though that person's given this little precious one of yours that you love with all your heart a hard time, if we call them a bully, we are saying they can't change. I struggle in this area, so I guess I can't change either. I'm a bad reader. I'm defiant. I'm whatever the thing is. The person doing the bullying, we are separating the action from the human being. And research shows that when we eliminate those labels, bullying decreases, retaliation toward the person doing the bullying decreases, and they both can grow out of that.
Yes.
So think about the social emotional impact. Talk about the self-advocacy, the things you did to be heard, or the things you wish you had known that you didn't do, and to advocate for yourself. Aunt Sally also is diagnosed with dysgraphia. And even now, it's really hard for her to write, but she is so creative, and she is a florist, and everyone loves her. And you love gardening too. What kind of connection can you make? Some people will say, Adam Levine has ADHD. They will pick someone famous, but it's more personal, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it may not be as effective as I love this person. I'm connected to this person. Aunt Sally is amazing. And it's somebody I look up to. Wow, they also have struggles. Now I really have a commonality, and I'm not on an island all by myself.
Yeah, I can see totally how that would really make you feel very lonely if you were constantly feeling like you're the only person with the problems. And when you have, like, we have 3 kids, so when Roger tends to have the most struggles, and it's not his fault, it's not, the other 2 just happen to learn traditionally well, and that's, that just is what it is.
Right.
But it is easy for him to feel alone.
Yes, for sure. So it's very important. What type of correlation can you draw between anything you struggle with? I mean, for me, I could talk to kids, they could laugh at how bad I am at technology, right? Whatever these things are, that's not a learning disability. Although if there was a category for that, I would probably be diagnosed. But
I don't know. You look very professional with your microphone and everything, so you're faking it really well.
I know how to speak into a microphone. I worked really hard on that.
Kudos to you.
And I know we're going to wind this up by saying all of these conversations need to be in the context of slowly rolling them out in a relaxed, situation. Relationship and connection always comes first. So the better relationship you have with your child, the more easily these roll. But it's not like, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about this, and where it's very kind of tense or intense.
Yeah.
And we're going to just throw it all out at you. Think of the analogy of, and I've heard this used in many different scenarios, but you have this empty tea pitcher, and you're the one pouring the drink in. You don't overfill what that vessel can hold. How much can your child handle at a time? Make it casual, sequential, over time. And it's not just when we deem we're going to sit down and talk about it. Let them know that you are always open to discuss it, answer questions, for them to share what their struggles are, their questions, their victories, everything, and that you will answer them openly and honestly. But of course, you do it with discretion. What can your child handle? But kid-led conversations, not just on this, but on anything. And really, most of these tips apply to multiple types of conversations we have with kids. We do not talk at our kids. We talk with them. And the more kid-led it is at the ability level they have, the more reciprocation, the more buy-in you're going to get. But we can't take away their hope. Hope is not just optimism. It's optimism that I have goals that I can reach, but it is also, I have pathways around setbacks, and I am with you, and I'm going to help you figure out those pathways. You know, it's pathways and agency. I can do this. You have to show that you believe they can do it, because they can. People with learning differences can learn. It may be at a different pace. It may look differently, but it doesn't mean that one's right and one's wrong. Celebrate differences. There's a whole lot of talk about diversity right now anyway, but it also applies to learning. And so the more you celebrate how different people are different. I posted on my page a few days ago about cutting out snowflakes and talking about how there are no two snowflakes that are alike, and how that makes everyone so unique and special, just like people. And this is just one of the many things that makes you who you are.
It's so true. It's so true. And I really do believe that he has something really special. I used to actually, one of my dear friends at work, when I would come in and I was crying or I was upset because we were having such struggles, she said, Jen, he is going to win the Nobel Peace Prize one day. And from that stage, he is going to say, thank you, Mom and Dad, for believing in me, even when it was hard. And I'm just like, I hold on to that, like, idea that his brain is so brilliant that he can't fit in this box. And so it's going to be okay. We just have to keep trying.
That is one of the biggest myths that so many people have, is that if my child, and the children may believe it too, if I have a learning disability, I can't be successful. Absolutely not true. One of the most brilliant people I've ever known still struggles to be able to write a sentence because of severe dyslexia. And he invented a product in the health and fitness industry that's in 14 countries. So the creativity, I may not follow this path that other people do, but wow, the brilliance. I mean, Albert Einstein, it's always good to bring in personal examples, but you can also read books, pull out books about people who struggled and what they made of themselves, because that really is a story of hope.
It's so true. You got me a little misty today, Heather. I didn't mean to start getting a little misty, but thank you so much for helping. You know, we have to keep the hope and that going with our kids, but you're helping the parents. You're helping us keep that going for ourselves, because you're recognizing that it's hard for us too. So thank you so much. You see all the brain balance information here, where you can reach out to Heather's centers and get you and your child, registered to try to just figure out some strategies that maybe will help make your life a little bit easier. And as always, we're going to be here every week talking to Heather just about different things that can help us at home. Heather, is there anything else you want to close with?
I just want to highlight the fact that Brain Balance at the Woodlands is opening in a couple of weeks. And I guess that's the main thing. Follow me on the Hidden Charm, because as well as all those brain balance sites, because we are posting strategies all the time. Reach out individually. If you have questions I can help you with, I'm happy to do so.
Amazing. Yes, Heather is always here to answer our questions. Drop them in the comments, even if you're seeing this on the replay. Heather, thank you so much. And everybody at home, we will see you next week. Bye.
I forgot. I will see you Thursday at 3:30 with Dr. Brian Aspie.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the plug. Yes, she will be back. I will see you next week. But thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.